Hey everyone, it's Angus here. I've got a bit of a cold, so if I cough halfway through this, I apologise. I don't edit these things, so bear with me. But it's the 1st of August here in Australia, and I thought what I'd do is I'd take you through and just show you where my Pionex bots are up to. Um, Most of my trades are stocks, probably about 95% of my money's in stocks, and I just trade Bitcoin every now and again just for the fun of it, just more to see how it might differ from the share market and, just have a small play in this market. One of the advantages of Bitcoin over stocks, for example, especially US stocks, is that you can buy very small amounts, and you're also not limited in how often you trade because of things like PDT rules, which in US stocks basically mean you can only trade a stock, where you can only trade, 4 or 5 times a week, including your buys and sells. So certainly not any sort of endorsement as to whether you should trade Bitcoin or not, or any sort of cryptocurrency. And I just thought I'd show you how some of these trading bots work. So, rather than sort of buying, I guess, shares where you open an order at a particular price and keep an eye out on, sell it when it goes up or down, depending on what your risk level is or what your take profit level is. Some of these trading bots, they're also very popular in the forex world, but these bots automatically trade and buy and sell stocks or buy and sell coins as they go up and down. So it's very much an automated process, and it's something that doesn't really exist in the stock world, at a consumer level. Because of things like the PDT rule, because of things like your minimum order entry requirements, and so I thought, it would be something for me to learn and just something I find a little bit interesting, and gives me ambitions maybe one day to build my own version. But I looked around for a long time, and this isn't any sort of endorsement. Most cryptocurrency providers or exchanges will have bots that are built in, that allow you to automatically trade coins as they go up and down. I picked Pionex after having a good look through them all, just because Pionex seem to specialize in bots. They've got really good pricing, like their equivalent of brokerage, is very very cheap. So if you're making these high frequency trades, then you're not bleeding out because of your brokerage equivalent payments. So all I did is I went to Pionex and I've opened up 9 bots, or I've got 9 running. And all I've done is I haven't done this in any strategic way, other than I wanted to see what all the different bots do and how they perform roughly against each other. And so that's why I've really only picked BTC. You could obviously make more money and potentially lose more money if you were to pick some of the other altcoins, but BTC is obviously the sort of the bigger original coin, and for this, let's call it an experiment. I just purely wanted to see how something like Bitcoin would perform against all the rest, with these automated trades. And just for interest, if I go across to have a look at what Bitcoin's been doing, you can see that it's really been a little bit all over the place. So it's been traveling very much sideways. Let me close all this. Remove 6 drawings, shrink of that. So you can see that I bought Bitcoin somewhere around here. And so you can see it has been, sideways, goes up, sideways, goes up, sideways. And, hopefully it'll continue to go up. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is that these grid bots, they specialize in sideways moves. They perform much better when the market is performing sideways as opposed to when it's trending. So anyway, that's enough of a sort of an introduction. All I'm wanting to really say is, for anyone who's interested in trading cryptocurrency in potentially an automated way, these trading bots seem to be an interesting way of doing it. And Pionex has a whole bunch of them, and I've picked on Bitcoin just because it's the biggest and theoretically the most stable coin. It's the one that's likely to have the longest longevity, and so all I've done is I've put a little bit of, I put the minimum amount, like I've always tried to aim for $100, but whatever the minimum amount is, with $100 as the minimum, I've put into these different bots, and I'll take you through and show you how they perform. So that's probably too much of an introduction, but I just wanted to let some of the people who might be new to this, kind of get a little bit more of a background, I guess. Anyway, and so once you are in Pionex, the simplest thing to do is you can go buy crypto, you can go and put in a credit card, and it'll literally take you through the process of saying how much you want to spend. And so, you might put in $100, US, or $100 Australian, or, whatever it is that you trade in. And then you can try these bots. And so it's a super, super easy way just to get started. It was a very easy process to fund and, get going. Right, so here's the bots. So the top one is this BTC futures grid bot. So all you do is you go to trade. You can see there's trading bots and futures bots. The futures ones give me leverage. And so you can see on this one, I've got 10x long. And so it means that my, investment of $200 is, being multiplied. And so, I can magnify my gains, I guess. And so this one has been running only for 7 days. And this was actually based on one that I did have running earlier. And I think my entry on it was around, the original bot was probably an entry of around 25 grand. And Bitcoin's now up to 29. So you can see that they trade in a fairly tight range. So this one's 27,000 to 33,000. That's the price of Bitcoin there. With my previous one, it got stopped out, I think, at about 31,000. So maybe it was about 30,500. And so when Bitcoin spiked up, it exited the bot and took profit. And I exited the bot and I took profit, and then I reopened it again with a greater range. So you can see here that the total profit on this bot at the moment is about 1% after 7 days, and it's just ticking away nicely. And it's saying if it continues this trend, then I might end up with around a 52% profit over the course of the year, roughly. And you can see Bitcoin's here at the moment, and so you can imagine if Bitcoin ran all the way back up to the $40,000 mark or the $50,000 mark, you can imagine that with a 10 times multiplier, it could go quite well in your favor. But of course, you could equally lose it just as quickly. The way that these bots work is that you invest a certain amount of money, and you can put in things like stop losses. So if I go across to my parameters here, see how it's got a stop loss. So it's basically saying that if it hits 28,750, that was just an amount that I put in, then it will automatically exit this trade. And the delay 30-second means that, which I quite like. I like this idea of a delay, which means that if the price just goes down and pushes through it, but then bounces back out of that area, then it won't sell unless it's been below that area for more than 30 seconds. So I did think that was quite interesting. You can see here, these are my settings. So it's just, this is very much just the stock standard settings that the script would have recommended. And you can see that it's taking, every time it goes up or down roughly 0.5%, then, it tries to take profit. So you can see here, it's had 10 rounds. It's got 33 grids that, are in that range. And so it just sort of ticks away. And so you can see, it's been profitable, or more profitable as the price was higher, and less profitable as the price was lower. And it's currently running around that, 1% type mark at the moment. You can see here, these are all the orders that the system has automatically placed. You don't have to worry about any of this. The system does all that for you. It'll tell you the number of transactions and, what the profitability of each of those transactions were. There's 10 transactions, averaging 1.25 transactions a day, remembering that it's only been open for 7 days. And the parameters I've just showed you in the funding history just, tells you, what's going in and out of it. So it's a super, super simple system. Again, this is a long explanation, but, some of you might not have seen this before. If you have seen it before, you can just, skip through the video and look at the results. But so this is the futures grid, and I won't have to explain all these in any sort of amount of detail. This is just showing you, what it is. And it's saying if the price drops down to 21,980, I'd get liquidated. I'd get taken out of my position. But as I showed you before, I've actually got a stop loss in there of 28,000. So if it hits that 28,000, again, I've only got $200 at risk. So if it hits that 28, I'm out. But otherwise, it would liquidate you at 21,000, and you don't go down $1,000. You just the whole system is set up to basically exit you out of your trade. Once this $200 is blown, so it's quite speculative. It's not too bad. This 15x long, so this is one that I bought when the market was much higher, and this is one that I just put $100 in just because I saw that a 15x long was available, and I just thought I'd try and see how it goes. You can see that the grid profit's 5.74, so in theory I've taken 5% profit, but the orders that I've got open at the moment, I'm down 18% on. So if I exited this out now, I'd lose roughly 12%, or in this case $14. So it's certainly not a big financial risk, but you can imagine if you had 100 grand on it, you wouldn't be doing too well. So again, very, very similar to this futures we've bought up here, but this one's a 15 times long. Same sort of deal. I get liquidated if it goes down to 24,000. If I click on this and I go overview, it just sort of shows I obviously bought it when it was much more expensive, hoping that it would go higher. I think I probably bought it when it was about here, because see how it's sort of trading a bit of a range. I think I would have bought it maybe when it dropped down to that range there, and I thought, well, that's interesting. Every time it's got back to there before, it's moved back up, and so that's roughly where I bought this one. And the price has gone badly ever since. So that's roughly where I opened up that trade, and as you can see, it's down considerable amount. But nothing that I'm worried about. And the whole idea of this is for me just to try the different bots, put $100 on them, and see what happens. This one here I opened earlier, so you can see this one's 62 days old. This one here was 10 days old, so only a little bit older than this one. And this one here has been running for a lot longer, so 62 days. It's got to be, I don't know, a couple of months. And again, this is just a leverage grid. It's $218 in play. It's a 5x multiplier. So that's why I say it's leverage. It's 5 times the value that I have is being invested in the market. It's had 190 rounds. The range is 25,000 to 35,000, so it's a much bigger grid. You can see that when I first bought it, it went down and it's recovered and just ticking along nicely. So that one's not going too badly. If I look at my parameters, so 35,000 upper limit, lower limit is 25,000, grids quantity is 50, and again roughly this 0.5% to a bit over. If I manually set up my grids, I honestly don't know what the right answer is. I don't know. There's some people who say you're better off setting it to roughly 0.5%. This 0.5% here includes any Pionex fees, so it's a true 0.5%. Some people say set it to 0.5%. Some people say set it to 1%. I've got two different bots running to try and work out what that what might be the ideal percent. But I personally don't know at this stage. I think the 0.5% you're taking more. You're capturing more, more profit. But you might be losing some of your potential in that transaction fee for the sake of doing it. So anyway, so you can see this one here is up roughly 26%. And if you compare this to shares, it's been running for roughly 2 months. Most brokers will be lucky to return a positive return, to be honest, and the better ones will be returning maybe somewhere between 8 and 20% on average. And so, if this was if this was your share portfolio up 26% for the year, a lot of people would be fairly happy with that. That's not a bad return. But this is saying that you're up 26% over 2 months or 62 days. Over the course of a year, you're probably going to be up around 150% if this trend was to continue. So if this was to keep going, it's saying, you might have 150% type return. That's highly unlikely, of course, depending on what happens to the price of crypto. But still, 26% so far is not a bad return for 2 months. That's not bad. It is leveraged. And so Here I start to get into the long-term ones that I've been running for a lot longer. So, this one's been running for 260 days. So, I guess that's around 3 months or so, 8 months or so. And you can see here I've had a $160 investment, and it's got a price. This is ETH. So I just wanted to try and see how BTC would compare with ETH. And so this one you can see is saying there might be around a 42% type return, in the current bot, and over the course of a year you might get 58%. Given that this one's already been running for 8.5, almost 9 months. That's why it's sort of saying that, but if you leave this running, for a full year, you might get 60% out of this one. So just remember that number, 60%, roughly. So here we go into the Bitcoin one. So same deal, 260 days, 260 days. So I started all these ones roughly at the same time. And you can see here another $100 investment, but this one might return around 90% over the year. So it's already got 64%, of which 10% it's effectively, banked. This 55% is, in open orders. And this one here is effectively saying that, it might be about a 90% return compared to this one with about a 60% return. And so again, if this was your stock portfolio, I think most people would be very happy to be up 64% for the year. With traditional brokers, and it's saying here that 90% is something that could be achieved with this particular grid bot, which is the BTC USD grid trading bot, and so that's the most vanilla stock standard bot that you can run on Pionex, and mainly because with this one I got in at a good price. I can't remember exactly where I bought in, but I wonder if it tells me somewhere. Total buy order, buy holding price. You can see my profit graph here, so that's nice looking profit graph. If I go placed, I go transactions. It doesn't tell me what my average buy price was. So I don't know. I don't know if I can tell you what my buy price was, but there you go, 16,000. So I managed to get on this one when Bitcoin was right down here somewhere. Yeah, so see somewhere around here is when I started those bots. So you can see, Bitcoin's gone up quite considerably. And I'll show you something a little bit interesting. So if I start here, let's pretend I start here around 16, I go up to where it is now. You can see that Bitcoin, if I did nothing but buy and hold Bitcoin, it'd be up roughly 75%. And so these grid bots are slightly outperforming a buy and hold strategy. But at the same time, I don't feel like there's as much risk because the way that they buy and sell as Bitcoin wiggles up and down. I feel like you can be banking money all the time. Whereas this one you're only really banking money when it goes up. So any of these wiggles through here, the bots perform quite well. Any of this sideways action is where the bots get their advantage from. So anyway, so that one's saying roughly 90% with an absolutely stock standard. Didn't have to configure or mess with anything, and it's a very wide ranging grid bot. BTC USD Infinity grid bot, and so these ones here, see how it's got a ceiling on it, and so this one's saying between $10,000 and between $10,000 and $100,000. It's got 500 grids. Let me see what the parameters are. So see how this one's a 0.08. So this one's taking little tiny cuts. This one, the next one here, the Infinity Grid, it doesn't have an upper limit. So the advantage of this one is that, it starts running, but there's no upper end to it. You can obviously put in a stop loss, you can put in a trigger price if you want. But the idea of this one is you just start the grid running and it'll just keep going. There's no worries about having an upper limit, which is good. But you can see the profit per grid is 0.6% compared to this one, which is 0.08, so 0.6 versus 0.08, and so similar performance, very very similar. I would have bought them at the same price, same time, 260 days, 22 hours, 260 days, 22 hours. So the stock standard one is outperforming the Infinity Grid at this stage. BTC USD spot futures arbitrage was just a different type of bot. Done nothing. So I've got $300 in that one, and it's up, but it certainly hasn't performed particularly well. So it's not one that I'd be overly interested in. This is a BTC USDT DCA bot, which is a martingale bot. And so again, certainly hasn't performed as well as the others. And again, it's just a different type of bot that you can have running on, Pionex. This one here is an experiment. So this is a grid trading bot, and this one I've tried to make it so it maintains around a 1% profit per grid. And you can see that this one's only up 12.7% and 17%. So remember how I was saying to you that I'm not sure about, whether to run it at 0.5% or whether to run it at 1%. And with this bot here, see how my profit per grid is around that 1% type mark? And so this one would certainly seem to indicate that running it around that 0.5%, you might be significantly better off. This one I have fiddled with, so this one I've made a few changes to every now and again, and it's just more to maintain that 1%. There was a period of time here when Bitcoin was going up quite aggressively where my upper limit was hit, so I must have had an upper limit of around, I don't know, 28,000 or, whatever it happened to be. I don't know if it tells you there. And so for quite a while, my bot was flat, so I didn't manage to take advantage of the Bitcoin price going up, which I should have done. And so I don't think that this number here is a fair number. I think I'd have to leave this one running for a lot longer just because I didn't take advantage of some of that profit. Let me just see if I can scroll up. So if I sort of say that's roughly the 18th of the 1st, this period here, and let's see what it looks like on this bot. See how that 18th, the 1st period there, mine was flat for that bottom bot where it was certainly going up more, and that's just because I set my ceiling too low. Or when I say I set my ceiling, the grid bot itself set the ceiling too low. But if I was going to start again, like if I was doing this again, I kind of think the stock standard vanilla bot, this one here is the one that's the easiest to understand, the easiest to set up. It's not bad. Like as it's between this one and the Infinity Grid bot, maybe the Infinity Grid bot, like if you really don't want to fiddle, then the Infinity Grid bot is probably the better one, even though this one's performing better at this stage. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not quite sure what the right answer to tell you is. Like, do one of each, but this one here, you have to obviously, it puts such a wide grid range, and you're only taking such a small amount, of profit. That 0.08 to I guess 1.7 is just like little itsy bitsy trades. I wonder if it can tell me how many trades I've taken. So 1,147 transactions, so roughly 4 a day. So 1,100 versus this one. See, this one's had a lot more transactions on the Infinity Grid bot. So it's interesting. So I don't know. I kind of feel that maybe this one is the better one to run. I've tried to experiment where I've had, this one down here. I've tried to make him a much tighter range than some of these others, and he's certainly not performing as well. If I look at the Bitcoin price here, if I zoom in, and so let's say, let's have a look at this range. Let me delete this one. If I say have a look at this range here from, let's say, down there to up there, so see how that's only roughly 2%. The majority of the time, from the bottoms to the tops of that is 1.45. So if I've only got like a 1% wiggle, with my grid bot, then I miss most of that. I don't get that frequency of trades. Again, probably about a 2% range there. It was definitely better through here. But, you can imagine if you're taking 0.05% of a trade, on a regular basis, you'd be taking a lot more action through here. So who knows? If you're a grid bot expert and you can give me a better understanding of perhaps a better strategy. And I've Googled, like I've asked the Pionex guys, I've Googled around to try and work out, what is the ideal strategy. And I can't see that the stock standard Infinity Grid bot, it seems to be the one that's pretty good, I think. I'd be very happy if that's where my returns ended up at the end of the year. And after 12 months, I might very well shut down the rest of these and, put all their money into this one and just let it run. It does seem to be the one that's performing better and, outperforming buy and hold at this stage. Anyway, that was a very, very long video. Apologies as always for my rambling. But I hope that someone out there might have found something a little bit interesting in this. Again, just thinking out loud, if I was to do it again, I'd probably have I'd probably end up having, well, this one here you can see is 154%. So I'd end up having, this one's 5 times, and these ones you can see I can get to 10 times and 15 times. But the problem with these ones is you've got to stop them and start them again, because I don't believe that I can have a much greater grid range. And, you do have a much better chance of being stopped out if they are such a wide range. So it's interesting. But you can see here on this 5X BTC bot, this is by far outperforming, these other ones down here, 90% versus 150%. And this one's only been running for, a couple of months when it's been rocky. So anyway, I'm rambling now, which is, unfortunate. But again, if you made it into this video, I applaud you. Any feedback, absolutely let me know. Very, very open to seeing if I can learn from anyone else in the YouTube community that's following along. But the main thing is I've opened up most of these bots at roughly the same time. I haven't fiddled with them, and you can see the different performance. These leverage bots certainly do add a level of excitement, if they start to run. These ones I've bought at a much higher price, 7 days, 10 days ago than these ones down here. So it's not quite as fair a comparison. But, I'm happy. I said if I did it again, I suspect I'd buy this BTC USD Infinity bot. I'd have probably, 80% of my funds in something like this. And then I might put a more speculative 20% on one of these, future grid bots, and just see what I can, really do with a leverage bot. Again, purely for the fun of it, not suggesting you sell your house and put a whole bunch of money on it. It still is crypto. Anything could happen. At the moment, there's a lot of, regulatory interest from governments all around the world in crypto, and trying to work out how they can tax it or apply it or block it. So it's interesting days. But anyway, once again, apologies for the rambling, and I hope you found something a little bit useful. Thanks for listening.